Technically, this is the pre-show. The show's going to start pretty quick because it's weird. It's just me. Happy birthday, Jen. Jen's got the day off, having her birthday. And I guess we're going to call this a very special episode of the Triangle Talk Show. Nobody's getting married. Nobody's dying. Well, you'll see. And it's unusual. It's weird because I'm recording, not doing this live. In fact, this is take 2. You didn't see take 1. I screwed it up so bad. And I got a script. And I have a script and I still screwed it up so bad. So I guess, okay, let's do the show. From the studio, in the bonus room, above the garage, on the north side of Cary, at the foot of Mount Belzoni, this is the Triangle Talk Show. And still sequestered in that studio, I am Gary Pierce, calling myself active-ish, as opposed to activist. I'm sort of a wannabe activist, also a wannabe journalist, and a real, if very do-it-yourself podcaster. And usually I've got a co-host or two with me here on the show, but not today. When I do have them, I like to boast that a boast without evidence. I should elucidate. Boast without evidence that we are the best team of podcasters in North Carolina. And this is episode 123 for November 22nd, 2020. Alamance Behaved for one day. And I'll explain in a minute. The Triangle Talk Show is a podcast. And that is absolutely the best way to consume the program, except maybe not for this very special episode. This one has a lot of video. If you just listen, let me know if it worked for you. I don't think it's going to work so well, but I know, we'll see. It's also a TV show, especially this one. Normally live on YouTube, live on Facebook, live on Periscope Twitter, but not today. Today we are recorded. Today we are on Memorex. But it's really a podcast. So much more intimate just listening. And I do take pride in the quality of the audio of the program. Even this more video version. Normally a podcast. We talk about anything we want to. We aim more or less at things that will be interest to triangularians. Wait, let me do I've learned how. Triangularians. Now, I got the thing here with the fingers in the right place, but do you wiggle the fingers or do they remain static? Jen? I need Jen. Triangularians. That's what I'm calling people who live in the triangle. Sometimes we're local, sometimes we go broader. We are unfair and unbalanced on the left side of politics for sure. If you want something unfair and unbalanced on the right side, go tune in one of those shows. I'm not going to help you out. The website's triangletalkshow.com, Facebook group, Triangle Talk Show, YouTube channel, Triangle Talk Show. Twitter and Periscope is @TalkTriangle. Podcast-wise, we are just about every place you want to be. Apple Music, TuneIn, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever that is. Google Podcasts, allegedly on smart speakers. Like us, review us, rate us, or hate us. I don't care about that. What I do care about is you share us. If you like the program, tell somebody. Tell somebody you know. Acknowledging that is risky for you, because if you tell somebody about it and they listen and they don't like us, it reflects badly on you and your questionable taste. But really, didn't we all already know that? On with the show. October 31st was Halloween, of course. It was also the last day of early voting in North Carolina. There were marches and demonstrations all across the state, rallying people to the polls. One of them was in Alamance County, just west of the Triangle. It caught national attention because there, the Graham City Police and the Alamance County Sheriff's Department used pepper spray on the demonstrators. Twice. You've probably seen that. Well, I'm going to hold on to the details here because that's what this whole episode is about. You're going to be seeing most of what happened. The day after that happened, we talked to Sean Green. Sean is an activist in Durham and Alamance County, and we talked to Scott Huffman. Scott was a candidate for Congress in the 13th district that includes Alamance County. And both Sean and Scott were at the demonstration. Sean was one of the organizers. And by the way, Scott lost his election. He was not in one of those two re-gerrymandered districts that became safe for Democrats. That's where the state picked up 2 new Democratic seats in Congress. So next year, there's going to be 8 Republicans and 5 Democrats in Congress from North Carolina, compared to the 10 Republicans and only 3 Democrats we've had for, about the past decade? Excuse me. Asthma has wicked up a little bit here. But I'm getting off topic. The day after the march, October 31st, Sean and Scott told us what happened. The march, the pepper spray, still coming up. The march was organized by Reverend Greg Drumright. He's a leader of a Greensboro church. And because the rally part of the event, they did a march and then they gathered around the courthouse in the center square of Graham, I guess county seat of Alamance County. That rally part was cut short by the pepper spray and the arrest of Reverend Drumright and several others. Reverend Drumright scheduled a second march, a makeup march, if you will, for Election Day, Tuesday, November 3rd. Tentatively scheduled to start at 8:30 in the morning. It was moved to 3 p.m. because Reverend Drumright was barred from entering Graham until 4 p.m. on that Tuesday. So if he wanted to be there, he had to wait until his sentence, so to speak, was expired. So I decided to go to that second march on Election Day, November 3rd, along with media from most of the rest of the country, it would appear. And as you will see, it turns out that pepper spraying a group of mostly black people who are heading to vote catches some attention. Who knew? There was a ton of media at the second march, along with me and the Triangle Talk Show's mobile production unit. That is this little video camera that I'm holding in my hand, and I stuck a Triangle Talk Show business card on the viewfinder, so when it flip it out, people could tell who was, if they were close enough. If they were close enough to catch COVID from me, they could tell who was shooting for the Triangle Talk Show, or who the video camera was pointed out there for. Anyway, I'm confusing myself. So the mobile production unit and I went out there. Okay, I'm not going to bury the lead any more than I already have, and I pretty much gave it away in the title. Alamance Behaved. Nothing happened. They marched. They had a rally in exactly the same place where they were pepper sprayed and arrested a few days before. And then they went home. I edited my footage of the march and the rally that I took with the mobile production unit. And as I was doing that, I became more curious about the first march on October 31st. We've all seen a few short clips of the Alamance County Sheriff's deputies spraying their pepper spray. They claimed they were spraying it mostly at the ground, and mostly they sort of were, although how much at the ground, is that so it doesn't get anybody's eyes? No, I don't think so. We've seen those short video clips of the sheriff's deputies spraying their pepper spray and arresting Reverend Drumright. What I discovered in doing some YouTube searches was that there was a lot more video, including more than 2 hours of continuous video, mostly focused right on Reverend Drumright. It was shot by him and his group, pointed mostly at him as he leads the march and the rally. So I grabbed up all the video that I could find, and I edited a second piece. My goal was to more clearly show what really happened, especially around the pepper spraying events. Now, when I was talking to Sean, it took me a while to understand that there were actually 2 very separate and distinct pepper spraying events, and they were separated by about a half hour. Once I put the video together, it was easier to understand just exactly how that happened. One took place shortly after the group paused for their 8-minute, 46-second memorial to George Floyd. And there, the Graham Police Department attempted to clear the traffic circle around the courthouse where the marchers were waiting for the rally to start. The marchers were told by the organizers that they could remain in the street. Apparently the police had a different understanding of what had been agreed to. That's what Sean was telling me. The second pepper spraying event happened when Alamance County Sheriff's deputies discovered, back to my air quotes, discovered a small gas-powered generator running to power the PA system that the rally was using. The Sheriff's Department believed there wasn't supposed to be a generator, and a deputy moved in to shut it down, and the crowd resisted. And that's, as you will see, and I was able to piece together a lot of what happened, but not everything. There were people pointing cameras and documenting the October 31st event, but I couldn't find any footage of the police actually moving in on the generator. You're going to see footage from around that. You're going to see people reacting to it, but you're not going to see that exact thing. I suspect from some footage I have seen and from this court case coming up, that the police have footage of that happening, but I'm not positive. They haven't released it if they have. Okay, so let's take a look at the video that I've got. First, it's going to be from October 31st, and these will be back to back. One will end, the other will start right up. From October 31st, and then the replacement march on November 3rd. You're not going to even have to watch carefully to see that they are very different events. And they elicited a very different reactions from the police. So I'll be back on the tail end. Let's take a look.
Power to the people! Power to the people! Power to the people!
This is somewhere near the beginning of the first march to the polls on Saturday, October 31st. This is the one that ended in pepper spray. Reverend Greg Drumright had a camera pointed mostly at him for the entire march and the activities that followed. This video is on his Facebook page. It's a long scroll down to October 31st on that page, but I'll have a link to it on this episode's website and on the show notes if you want to be able to see the whole thing. It runs about an hour and 42 minutes, so not quite as long as a typical Triangle talk show. I do wish they'd held the phone sideways, but they didn't.
Justice for the next generation! Justice for the next generation! Justice for the next
As they march, they make some noise. If you participate in protest marches, these chants will be familiar.
Whose streets? Our streets! Whose streets? Our streets! I said Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
If you don't participate in protest marches, maybe if you're a conservative, suburban, or rural white person, kind of on the older side, like me, well, white and older like me, because I'm deaf, not conservative, dude. If you don't participate in marches like this, you may actually find this kind of scary. Strident black people marching in a large group, chanting and raising their fists, no justice, no peace, shut it down, right out of a Republican political campaign commercial. You may think, or at least wonder, if these are the same people that you see on TV breaking windows downtown, throwing fireworks at police and setting fires. And, well, a few of them might be. Fox News and those campaign commercials want you to think that they all are. But most of them? I don't think so. Oh, they're activists. And sometimes they're angry. And they don't like the way America works or doesn't work for a big segment of society. And they want to change it. They don't typically have a lot of power, political power, so this is how they get their message out. When the march is over, they do what you do. They go home to their families, go to work or to school. And so now they've made it downtown, and they pause for a photo op. Seems pretty radical.
As we enter this community in downtown Graham one more time.
Reverend Drumright is pausing to remember a man named Wyatt Outlaw. Wyatt was the first African-American elected to be town commissioner and constable of the town of Graham during Reconstruction shortly after the Civil War. Some of the very fine people of Graham at the time were not all that happy to have a black police officer in the town.
Took Wyatt Outlaw down this same corridor
Wyatt Outlaw was lynched by the Ku Klux Klan
to his unjust death.
On February 26, 1870.
The first black public official
It happened on the corner of the square,
made this stride
across the street
as his death march.
from where this group was about to be pepper sprayed.
We want to honor George Floyd.
I went looking for other video of the event, and I found a little. Someone with the handle HealAFlyers7 posted a short clip on YouTube from the ground just before the group began their 8 minute and 46 seconds of silence to honor George Floyd. This gives you some perspective on the size of the group and the police around them.
And so I want to ask you, you can stand. To our younger folks, you can sit down. I know in the last minute, before the family and I, we're going to kneel down. Somebody get my stopwatch going. Y'all spread it out. Spread it out. After that, we're going to put our stage in its appropriate place and start our rally. Floyd family, come on up here with us. Come on, y'all, make room, social distance. To the left and to the right of us. We're going to start this with in memory of George Floyd. Is that all right? Here we go. 8 minutes, 46 seconds.
I'm not going to hold for the whole 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I hope that's okay with you. We did watch the entire video of George Floyd being killed by a Minneapolis police officer in a previous Triangle Talk show.
Say his name, George Floyd. 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 Say his name, George Floyd.
All right, we are getting ready to have our rally. We're gonna build our stage first. If you all will hang tight, y'all, if you have to, just party. The streets belong to us. All right?
Here, I was looking for timing. Reverend Drumright and Sean Green, our guest on the last episode, said that the police began pepper spraying about 15 seconds after the end of the homage to George Floyd. That would have been right about here. Now, let me stick with the camera as it tracks Reverend Drumright over to a pickup truck where some of the equipment is.
Christian grace! Christian grace! Christian grace! Christian grace!
Still no evidence of pepper spraying going on yet. Then he walks over to the front of the courthouse where they're going to be setting up their stage.
Yes.
He has a brief conversation with a sheriff's deputy that appears to be about what part of the sidewalk to use.
So from here back, you can stand up. We just can't have the stage.
While that's going on, a camera from Triad City Beat picked up what looks like the first pepper spray from the Graham police as they begin a standoff with the protesters still in the street. It actually happens about 2 minutes after the end of the George Floyd homage. Back on Reverend Drumright's camera, it looks like he may have seen something happening. It's on the other side of a big Confederate monument, so his view is partially blocked. But he remains busy getting the stage set up. Then the News and Observer's camera caught another blast of pepper spray from the Graham Police Department. And shortly after that, Reverend Drumright heads back to the street to see what's happening. So, was it 15 seconds or 2 minutes between the end of the Floyd homage and the first pepper spray? I don't know. Maybe they had something else in mind when they talked about 15 seconds. Or maybe it's just a mind playing tricks when recalling a hectic emotional event. Either way, what was the point of chasing people out of that street with pepper spray? Sean Green told us they had permission to use the street from the Graham police chief, who was nowhere to be found during this event. And regardless, this wasn't Times Square or even Fayetteville Street in Raleigh. This was Graham, on what would otherwise have been a quiet Saturday afternoon. There was no hurry. That episode was fairly brief, and while it angered the demonstrators, it wasn't a showstopper for the event. People were able to cross the street and gather in front of the courthouse, preparing for the speakers.
I gotta follow him. I'm going across the street.
It's going to be all right, because we're here for change, and we're going to get our change. We're going to get our change. We're going to get some of these people out of these offices. We're going to vote them down. We're going to get a new council. We're going to get a new commissioners. We're going to get our change.
In a racist society, it is not enough to be non-racist. We must be anti-racist.
We are here today, marching, voting, in pursuit of justice for our son Christian.
Say it louder.
Christian grace.
Say it prouder.
Christian grace.
All right?
Yes, sir.
I give you the mayor of Burlington, North Carolina. Your mayor, Burlington, is standing with us.
Revolutionary love is giving thanks to giants whose shoulders we are standing on.
Come on now.
Revolutionary love is giving thanks to living legends who are locking arms with.
Yes.
I have learned so much since the death of George Floyd about systemic racism, about Black history and enslavement, all the way down to my own lineage of being a Nigerian. Understanding now and never before why I was told that I had high cheekbones, not because I was a Black woman, but because I was Native American. My family did so much to protect me from what is happening in my current reality that when
These speakers were actually talking for about 30
it has
minutes.
hit
During
very
all that
hard.
time, the PA system was being powered by a small
as a very
Honda generator.
inclusive,
Those generators are
pansexual
pretty quiet.
being
I know. I have one.
that has
But you
identified
can
that
hear
they
it
don't
running
want
in the background.
to no longer have
Suddenly,
an identity if it
apparently,
is surrounded
An Alamance
by
sheriff's deputy
bigotry.
discovered the generator and
If
a
it
gas
has
can,
to have a
and it
staple
decided it
of a
needed to be
certain
shut
type of-
down for safety. Watch as Reverend Drumright notices that something is happening as he's speaking.
My bonanza, so he gonna really get it going.
I haven't found any video of the sheriff's deputy trying to shut down the generator, but you can hear the reaction from the crowd.
Don't touch it! Don't fucking touch
I've spliced together what video I could find of what happened next. I did some careful reconstruction, and I think I have these segments all in the right order.
Let them handle it, please.
Here's the first shot of pepper spray, actually caught by a sheriff's camera. There was a disabled woman on a scooter. Most people are saying she was in a wheelchair, but it was really a little scooter. The video doesn't show her getting pepper sprayed, but it does show her violent reaction a few moments later. The video is fairly chaotic, but you can see that the deputies continue spraying while the woman is having what witnesses describe as a seizure a few feet in front of them. Then the pepper spraying appears to stop. Here's how the sheriff's office described the incident in a press conference a few days later.
On October 30th, Reverend Drumright, Graham Police Department, and the Sheriff's Office participated in a Zoom meeting regarding the upcoming event. As previously communicated, Reverend Drumright was repeatedly told that per the conditions of the facility use policy, no gas-powered generators would be allowed on county property due to safety concerns. At 12:54, a male with a gas can was witnessed within the permitted area where approximately 200 people were gathered. Command was notified and Captain Sykes gave the order to attempt to locate that gas can. At this point, it was imperative the container was quickly identified. A deputy with the sheriff's office was then ordered to locate and remove the container from the rally. During this attempt, an operational gas-powered generator hidden inside a purple cloth wagon was discovered.
Hold on a second. I can't speak to the agreement about no gas generators, and I haven't heard anyone involved in the march address that issue, except to note that the agreement reads, electrical generators are not allowed on historic courthouse property. The generator was on the sidewalk. Is that historic courthouse property? Sounds like a point that needs some discussion, not confiscation. The spokesperson also said that the generator was hidden in a purple cloth wagon. The generator was in the wagon. It was not hidden, and it had been running, making noise, for more than a half hour.
Because the gas-powered generator was running and within 2 feet of a container of gas, it is deemed dangerous and a fire hazard per the fire marshal.
So, the gas can was within 2 feet of the generator. Simple solution, move the gas can.
The deputy then turned the generator off and disconnected it. Protesters resisted his attempt to retrieve the items and was told by those at the generator that he was not allowed to take them. At this point, several people began pulling and shoving our deputies. Protesters then grabbed 2 of our deputies and started shoving them away as they reached in for the generator. One of our female officers was then shoved to the ground. As she was falling, she deployed her OC spray, which is similar to pepper spray. At this point, she was injured. When she got back up, she deployed again. When one of our officers saw her being assaulted, he simultaneously sprayed a short burst of OC vapor into the air to disperse the crowd.
OC vapor is pepper spray. And let's take a look at the sheriff's own video to see how that spray went into the air. Oops, a little bit out of control. And how is that supposed to disperse the crowd? Well, I think that one guy in the raincoat who got a face full was feeling dispersed. Obviously, this situation is going south fast. But did it have to? Yes, this crowd is angry. They're angry at the police for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all the way back to Wyatt Outlaw, who was lynched just across the street.
The Alamance County Sheriff's Office. You are in violation of what you're under statute.
This episode became a standoff between the demonstrators and the sheriff. The sheriff won by arresting a bunch of demonstrators, including Reverend Drumright.
He told me to keep filming.
So, what's the police department really supposed to do? Well, that question, I think, could be answered by observing what happened just 3 days later. That's when Reverend Drumright organized a second march to the polls. And this time, I was there with the Triangle Talk Show mobile production unit. That's my little video camera. I was there to document the whole thing. This is downtown Graham. That's the courthouse. That's where the pepper spraying took place on October 31st. This is the courthouse steps. This is exactly where the pepper spraying took place on the 31st. When I got there, the march was assembling about a mile north, so there wasn't very much going on here. You can see that one police car, but there wasn't a big police presence. There was this small group of people assembling on the corner, And the Trump flags on the pickup trucks nearby may give away the fact that this was going to be the counter-protest group. So I walked the mile up to the Wayman Chapel AME Church. And that's where I found the March to the Polls group assembled in the parking lot behind the church, already in progress.
In the democratic process to vote in just a few moments.
First of all, we would like to thank everybody once again for coming. We would love for Pastor Drumright to be here right now, but unfortunately, he's been banned by Graham, until 4 o'clock. But at 4 o'clock, he will be joining us. But once again, thank you for coming. We have a few instructions. I want everybody to understand this is not a rally or a protest. When we go to the polls, we'll be marching in solidarity to stand, to show people that we're not afraid as a community. We will not be doing any chants, any chants at all. We want to stay silent and keep it that way. We will be on the sidewalks. I want to repeat that again. We'll be on the sidewalks. We want to keep everybody out of the streets.
My name is Barbara Enoch Day. In 1982, I left Alamance County. I stayed gone to 2017. Alamance County is more racist now than it was in 1982.
I'm here to speak as a Graham resident. I've lived here my entire life. I'm not up here to take the microphone away from any of these wonderful Black women over here that I've been so lucky to stand beside, all of these organizers that I've been so lucky to know over this past summer. This is their moment. This is their time to speak. I'm just here to let you know that you're supported in this community. Not everybody feels that way, okay? And we love you, and we know that your life matters. And we're gonna fight right beside you.
It is our intent that we do no clashing or confusion with local law enforcement, so let's let that be known. Law enforcement, we have said we want no problems. We are only here to get people to use their right to vote, that's it. If you cannot comply with this protocol, we respectfully ask you now not to march.
I am not arriving to be fashionably late.
Reverend Greg Drumright.
I'm arriving because my ban in Graham has just ceased. I and the other marchers were banned until about right now. And we were waiting. We've been here since 1 o'clock this afternoon in the community, knocking on doors, asking people, have they voted and will they vote? And so I want you all to know that this is not about the cameras and it's not about the attention. It's about the systemic oppression that has existed here for far too long. And so as we join you, let me say thank you for gathering here and building community here. This is absolutely amazing. I understand that this is something that our county has not seen before. And so I want you to give yourselves a hand because we're doing this together. We want change in Alamance County and in Graham together. Can you look at your neighbor and say, I'm giving you a round of applause today? Yeah.
And then they got started. I wasn't expecting the brass band. I had seen the guy walking around with the tuba before, but the whole band, they were great, and we're going to see them again. The original march, the one that ended in pepper spray, drew a lot of national media attention. So, of course, this one got a tremendous number of reporters and photographers, so many that it got hard to tell where the beginning of the march was because they were all clustered around the head of the march. But look carefully. There's Reverend Drumright with his fist in the air. He's technically the beginning of the march. Now, I've titled this episode Alamance Behaves, and you heard the instructions to stay on the sidewalks, and there wouldn't be any chanting. But Alamance County police and officials also knew that the whole world was watching. So, yeah, chances were they were going to be on their best behavior. Here's a longer look at the march as it stretched out on this neighborhood street. They did stay on the sidewalks, where there were sidewalks. Here, the march hugged to the right side of the street. As promised, no chanting, no call and response, just quiet conversation among the people as they walked. This was a march to the polls, so it passed by a polling place, and Alamance County residents were encouraged to vote if they hadn't voted already.
But if you haven't voted, we brought you here to vote. Make sure you use your voice.
Again, no chanting, no noise at all as they walked by the polling place, because they didn't want to be accused of voter intimidation. But they were asked to raise a fist. I didn't see or hear about any opposition to the march as they wound their way through the Graham neighborhoods. Could it be that the whole city was on its best behavior?
They're downtown waiting for this.
Everybody from the sidewalk? Yeah, there you go. You look beautiful. File on in, file on in.
The march stopped at another church parking lot to pick up some energy from the band. They were playing Sweet Dreams Are Made of This, which warmed my classic rock heart. Then they got some final instructions before they walked the last few blocks to the courthouse, where they didn't really know what was waiting for them.
Other than when we are having our community conference, we will need you to stay peaceful in your volume level. We are not here to be rabble-rousers, but we are here to exercise our First Amendment rights and to call on change in Graham, North Carolina. To the place where the monument will eventually come down.
Here's what was waiting for them. Police officers on the courthouse steps. More officers lined up behind the courthouse, along with this armored sheriff's vehicle. And a small group of onlookers waiting, in addition to the Trump crowd that hadn't really gotten much larger. The marchers and their media entourage entered the square.
Please do not engage any counter-protesters. Do not engage any distractions. Come in peace.
Then proceeded to fill the sidewalk area in front of the courthouse.
Get out the crosswalk.
And an overflow area on the sidewalk across the street. And yes, the whole world was watching.
A march to the polls underway now in Alamance County. It's a continuation of a march Saturday, one that gained national attention when officers pepper sprayed the crowd. WRAL Sarah Kruger joining us live now to share what is happening. Quite a crowd behind you, Sarah.
David, hundreds of people here tonight. We have not seen any clashes between officers and marchers. This march just came to a stop here on the courthouse steps, where you can hear the crowd is very loud and very excited. There are hundreds of people out here who came to show solidarity after a march to the polls on Saturday, where Graham police and Alamance deputies pepper sprayed attendees. That put this small city in the national spotlight and even caused civil rights groups to file a federal lawsuit calling that voter intimidation. The agencies defend their actions, saying the crowd failed to disperse and that a deputy was assaulted. Marchers maintain they were peaceful the whole time. And as we're walking you through this crowd, you can get a sense of just how big it is. There are even some supporters on the other side of the street. You will also see here with some Confederate flags and some Trump flags, a small group of counter-protesters. There were some words exchanged between the two groups, but again, no clashes that we have seen. Marchers say they are out here today to show that they will not be intimidated. David.
Okay, first, don't call me David. And second, back that video up a little bit. Yeah, that's me in the orange shirt. Just wanted to prove I was there. Now, being an old white man, I was able to loiter in the small Trump zone on the corner of the square without attracting a lot of attention. Okay, a little attention.
Just out of curiosity, why do y'all take so many pictures?
Sorry, I got a lot of noise in my ears.
Oh.
You don't have a mask on, I can't get close to you.
Okay. Sorry you're brainwashed, man.
Well, the answer is obvious, although I don't think that guy would ever see it. On the 31st, the march that got the pepper spray, it's my observation that the police were looking for opportunities to disrupt the event. They could have shown restraint. They could have allowed the marchers to linger a little longer in the street after they honored George Floyd. That's an emotional time for the participants. They could have ignored the gas can and the generator situation. I've got one of those generators and a couple of those gas cans, and when they're handled properly, they're not a threat to public safety. And if they couldn't ignore it, they could have discussed it with the march organizers and reached a peaceful solution. But on the 31st, there were just a handful of cameras. At this Election Day event, there were hundreds. Now, the cameras are no guarantee that violence won't break out, but the authorities were at least mindful of the publicity. So this event was peaceful. I did see one minor attempt to incite conflict. As the marchers were preparing to leave the courthouse area, a couple of men carrying Confederate flags got hold of a Black Lives Matter banner and were stomping it on the street, taunting the marchers. The police quickly moved in and stopped them, while the marchers didn't react. About the only recognition the marchers gave the counter-protesters was this chant. And then it was over. The marchers headed back to the Wayman Church, then home, in peace. And that, sir, is why we take so many pictures. Well, of course, the phrase, "the whole world's watching," comes to mind. With all that attention, much of it live, Alamance behaved. The marchers were deliberately very, very quiet. They attempted to give the police department no opportunity to react to anything. The police did what they're supposed to do, clear a safe path for the marchers to demonstrate. Whether they agree with what the demonstrators are demonstrating about or not, it's not their job to evaluate it, it's just to make it safe. And that's what could have happened. That's what did happen on the 3rd. That's what could have happened on the 31st. So why didn't it? On the 31st, the demonstrators were noisy. They had a right to be. On the 31st, there were, and I'm being charitable here, misunderstandings about what was agreed to and how things were supposed to be set up, especially the use of the street and the location of the generator. Both of those were handled badly. The demonstrators could have remained calmer and followed the police department's orders to clear the street. They thought they had a right to be there, and they're getting really, really tired of remaining calm and following orders, considering both the long and recent history of the treatment of their people by the police. The police appeared to operate from, this is on the 31st, the police appeared to operate from their us against them mentality. They seized opportunities to step in when restraint and discussion could have kept things peaceful, understanding that a large group of people chanting "no good cops" in a racist system, that's still peaceful. Alamance County has charged Reverend Drumright with a felony in connection with the sheriff's deputy who was knocked down trying to disconnect the generator. So that's going to go to court. Although these two marches attracted nationwide attention, I think that attention is probably going to be brief. There were echoes of the Selma March in 1965 when black demonstrators were beaten by Alabama police along a voting rights march. Nobody was beaten in Alamance County, not on October 31st, 2020. But a voting rights march disrupted by police using pepper spray, well, that may be the 2020 version of Selma, and it was right here at home. Okay, that's it for this episode of the Triangle Talk Show. Episode 123, Alamance Behaved. Behaved, past tense. November 22nd, 2020, that's today's date. Please remind me to leave the show's mobile production unit at home next time I do a show. The next time I go out to an event, because editing takes too long. I'm Gary Pierce. Thanks for watching. Live show again next Sunday with Jen and whoever else we can wangle into getting on the program. Over and out. Oh, I forgot to hit the triangle. Over and out.